Well, joining me now, Alexis McGill Johnson, president of Planned Parenthood and a Harris surrogate. So welcome to you. I see you slightly shaking your head, so the question begs to be asked. Donald Trump's comments there. What is your reaction, and is that really what women want to hear?
I mean, in what world, Alex? I mean, in a world where almost half of all women are living in a state with abortion ban, like they won't be thinking about one unless they actually need one, or their coworker needs one, or their daughter needs one, or their sister or their friend needs one. I mean, and they have to now travel out of state or find a doctor willing to perform access to abortion care for them because they are, you know, in spite of them being afraid of doing so. So it just feels delusional, and it feels like he's trying to rewrite a narrative that makes no sense in reality, because we all know he is responsible for the public health crisis that we are living in. He is responsible for those, you know, those abortion bans that led to the deaths of the women that we just learned about this week, Amber Thurman and Candy Miller, and, you know, and who knows who else has been impacted in such a devastating way. So, yeah, he's delusional.
Well, as I mentioned off the top, we have a 21% lead with Harris over Donald Trump, this with women, and it's according to the NBC poll. But Harris trails Trump by 12 points among men. So how do you explain this gender gap?
Well, you know, look, I do think that, you know, women over the last 2 years in particular fully understand what it has meant for our fundamental freedoms to control our own bodies to be taken away from us. I mean, it is very core to our ability to decide if, when, and how we become pregnant, how that correlates to the families that we are already taking care of, whether that correlates to the career opportunities, the education opportunities, or just the lives that we want to live and imagine for ourselves. And so we are fundamentally holding a piece of that. But, you know, it's so funny. I was in Montana the week before last, and I was on a college campus with a young man who was asked the same question around how he sees the gender gap. And he said unequivocally, this is not a gendered issue. Young men, I think, are also seeing kind of the impact that their peers and their friends are experiencing, because they understand this as a, you know, as an issue of freedom. And so while there may be some men who were locked in for Trump, I'm also really encouraged by what I'm seeing from young people and so many men for choice, up into including the vice president's spouse, Doug Emhoff, being such strong supporters for reproductive freedom and showing up in many ways.
But here's something, the new NBC poll that we're talking about today, it shows abortion lands 5th among those issues that matter most to voters. So as Democrats are making reproductive rights a top campaign issue, should they instead redirect their energy towards some of those issues that land at the top of the list? As you look at it, it's economy, immigration, and on those points, Donald Trump leads over Harris.
I think we have seen time and again over particularly over the last couple of years, that every time reproductive freedom has been on the ballot, we win. And I think it's important for her to continue to assert that our freedoms are paramount in this moment. And there is clearly a correlation between reproductive freedom and the economy, between reproductive freedom and efforts to reduce inflation, reproductive freedom, and other issues in terms of our democracy. And so I don't think that one need not talk about it in order to talk about the other issues. I think this is really about trying to put it in the context of what it would mean to live under a president who truly understands that when you control the right to your own bodily autonomy, it gives you so much more flexibility in a society. And when you center the experiences of those folks who are harmed, it also helps you reimagine policy. So whether she's talking about the care economy or building the middle class out, reproductive freedom is a fundamental piece of what that means. And I think connecting the dots continues to be critical there.
So with the 10 states that are going to get a chance to vote in November on whether to expand abortion rights in their states, you also have Nebraska, which is going to vote whether to further restrict them. How much of a difference could this make in critical states?
Look, there's a critical difference here in key states like Florida and Arizona and Maryland and Nevada, which also have, not just ballot initiatives, but key Senate races. It is really important for voters to, we are seeing overwhelming support in those ballot measures. We have to close the gap between the candidates and the ballot measures, right? You can't vote on one hand to support reproductive freedom in your state without also supporting the candidates up and down that ballot, right? Because there are candidates there who could pass a national abortion ban. So, we're encouraging people to make sure their ballot initiative vote aligns with all of the other votes for candidates up and down the ballot, because we don't want anyone to cancel out what their true values are in their vote.
So you're specifically referencing some Senate races. They're suggesting Senator Rick Scott of Florida, Ted Cruz of Texas. Those are the races that can potentially be overturned. They can be unseated. How much do you think reproductive rights are going to make the difference, specifically in those two Senate races?
Well, there's no question that Texas and Florida have been ground zero in the fight for reproductive freedom. Remember, Texas started off the year before Dobbs with SB 8. Texas is the first state where I actually heard about patients who were being sent to hospital parking lots waiting for sepsis to set in before the patients were being treated. And Florida, as you know, has a 6-week ban on the books right now, where, a vast majority of patients are now having to travel out of state. And, in a way, Florida literally was a bastion in the South to support so many patients in the southern region. So abortions on the ballot in Texas, abortions on the ballot in Florida, and the history that their lawmakers have had really to create a laboratory to test these horrific bans and then propagate them throughout the country. That is what I think, Senator Allred and future Senator Allred and Congressman Powell should be engaging in conversation around, to help people understand how important it is for the Senate race to also reflect, where the majority of people are in both of those states. They do not support these bans. They do not support being criminalized for getting access to health care. And as they continue to run on reproductive freedom, we hope to see some gains there, too.
Okay, Alexis McGill Johnson, thank you so much for the conversation.